Hello, I'm Stephanie Riva, and they are.
I'm Kyle Lopes.
I'm Joshua Oak.
And it's my great honor to introduce Baraka, the mayor of our neighboring city, North. Everyone give a round of applause to our honored guest. So a little bit around Baraka. He was born in April 1969 in Newark, New Jersey, where he earned his bachelor's degree in political science from Howard University in 1991, followed by a master's degree in education supervision from St. Peter's University in 1994. Prior to working on his political career, Mr. Baraka served as an English and history teacher in the Newark Public Schools. In 2005, he was elected as a council member at large for the Newark City Council. Although his initial bid for office was unsuccessful, he was defeated by Sharp James. And from 2007 to 2013, Mr. Baraka simultaneously held the position of principal at Newark Central High School, while also serving as the South Ward Council member, a posting maintained until 2014. In July 2014, Baraka was inaugurated as the 40th mayor of Newark, with a clear, ambitious agenda focused on educational reform, economic development, and criminal justice reform. His leadership and accomplishments were recognized nationally when in 2015, he was named the most valuable mayor on the nation's most valuable progressive list by The Nation magazine. In 2017, Mayor Baraka launched the Hire, Buy, Live initiative, a strategic plan aimed at stimulating the city's economic growth and providing opportunities for local businesses and residents. His success in office was further affirmed in 2018 and 2022, when he was re-elected to serve additional terms as mayor. Looking ahead, Mayor Baraka has announced his intention to run for governor of New Jersey in 2025, continuing his commitment to public service and his vision for the future of the state. So let's give another round of applause to our guest.
That was good. That was good research there.
Well, thank you for coming, Ross. So, just to get this started, our first question is, what inspired you to have a career in public service, and what steps did you take to becoming the mayor of Newark?
I'm still trying to figure out how I got in this thing. But I was a public school teacher, a substitute actually at first, and then I became a full-time teacher in Newark Public Schools. And most of the time, the issues that we encountered in the schools went well beyond our authority as teachers to help problems that parents and kids had, to make sure they had an opportunity to have a quality education, whether it was access to food, access to healthcare, access to housing. All of those kind of social determinants usually got in the way of my job. And so I belonged to an organization, a local community-based organization at the time, and we thought we should challenge then Mayor Sharp James almost as a dare. I did it. We raised about $10,000 from fish fries and poetry readings out of my dad's basement. I thought I was a millionaire, obviously, and I ran for office because I was young, 24. I thought I was invincible at that age and that we could win because we were right. We were absolutely wrong. We got crushed. But I got like 3,000 votes. So to me, that was incredible and inspired me to continue running. I actually wasn't elected, and that's the only part. In 2005, I was appointed to an office that then Donald Tucker passed away, the former councilman, and I held that position for a couple of months and lost. So when it was time for re-election, I lost again. So I actually ran for office for 16 straight years and didn't win anything in a straight-up election. It wasn't until actually 2010 that I won Southport councilman, all the way from 1994.
Thank you for the answer. And in what ways do you think your education, going to college and all that, shaped your leadership skills?
I don't know about leadership, the school itself. I think just me being involved actively in the community helped me around leadership, and being involved in local student government at the time also helped around those things. Me being a community activist in school and out of school kind of really helped me around leadership. I think school itself helped focus me on what I should be leading. or what direction I should be going in philosophically, what it is I believed, right? As I left Newark, New Jersey and went to Howard University, my best friend was on his way to Annandale, which is a youth correctional facility in New Jersey. I was on my way to college. And, that kind of dichotomous situation made me always think about how we could change that trajectory and have more kids go to college and less go to jail. And my upbringing in Newark and the family that I belong to, all of those things is what really directed me into what I'm doing presently and what I'm doing now. But I think Howard University was probably the best thing that I could have done in my life. It gave me purpose. It gave me direction. It focused me on learning and studying and research more than anything. So I feel like I have to be prepared all of the time for many reasons, but Howard University always made you believe that you are supposed to do something greater. And so I was always preparing myself for the greater to show up.
And in your views, what do you think defines a strong leader?
Well, I think there's a few things, actually. One, being able to take accountability and responsibility for the decisions that you make and the ideas that you come up with, right? I always say to my folks, you don't have to do everything. You just have to make sure everything gets done, right? The ability to have some kind of empathy for others and collaborate with other people, realizing that the things that you have to do are big enough and heavy enough that other people should be helping you with it or assist you with it. I actually believe if your ideas are too small, then only you can do them by yourself. If it only needs you, then it's too small. If your dreams are only encompass you, then they're small dreams and myopic ones. That you always have to have plans or ideas that are big enough to include other people, right? And I think that big thoughts and big ideas are necessary to get as many people engaged and involved in it as possible. And I absolutely believe that you always have to be prepared, right? You always have to, study, understand the issues. My mother would say, no investigation, no right to speak. Obviously from her activist days, that's what she got. She would put that to me, no investigation, no right to speak, meaning that you should always be ready and understand the issues to talk about them in an intelligent and literate way. And you can't challenge people unless you're clear on the issues yourself.
Thank you. So, what do you think are your strongest leadership skills, and what do you feel you still need to work on?
Well, I think collaboration is something that I learned being the principal and then the mayor in a more intense way. I think it's a skill that should be taught. I know it's difficult to actually teach, but it's something that it's a 21st century skill that I think everybody needs to learn. Collaboration is not cooperation. It is not asking people for help. Collaboration is a deeper kind of understanding, a deeper kind of model of working with people to build something from the ground up, despite our differences, and our perspectives, being able to come together and build on things collectively. And I think I have the ability to do that because I've been forced in those kind of situations. In fact, all the things that we've been successful at in Newark is because we've collaborated on. The things that we have not been successful at, that we're struggling around, are the things that we have not gotten common ground or gotten agreement to collaborate collectively on these things. And so we're still suffering in those areas that people are still holding close to their vests, the things that will help us move forward along these lines. And there's a bunch of examples around collaboration that I think that we've done in Newark that, helped me perfect even what I think that idea and that concept is. Obviously, being able to, some of the challenges that I think that, in terms of leadership that we have or that I have, is, sometimes, you take things personally, right? And you have to learn not to take all of the stuff that is happening personally, like to be able to differentiate between what you need to spend a lot of attention and time on that wears you down, as opposed to moving forward and not taking things personally and just moving forward politically. So sometimes I take things a little personal sometimes, and I got to learn how to move forward beyond that.
Thank you. So, how do you persuade people to follow your direction? I know you said previously in another answer that people have to do things, that it just has to be done, right? So, how do you get them to do that, especially when they disagree with what you're doing or how you want to do it?
Well, you have to involve people in decision making. You have to be inclusive. You have to bring people to the table and let people know their ideas are welcomed, are respected, right? Not humiliate or isolate people. Bring them into the discussion, have a real honest dialogue. Look, if you discovered fire, then share it. If you think your ideas are the best, then let it portend. Like, let the ideas compete with one another, right? In open space, and not be afraid to have those discussions and dialogue. And then small victories, right? You begin to get small wins and bring people along as you go. And they'll see that this is the right path that we're going on. And the fact that, that they respect how the process itself, people respecting the process, allows them to give you grace, right? They give you grace. They give you benefit of the doubt in the sense that I might not agree totally with what you're doing, but I agree with how this is happening, right? And, sometimes there's 10 items on the list and we disagree with 3, but we all good on the 7, right? Usually people walk away because they disagree on 3 items, as opposed to uniting around the 7 and continuing to struggle around the 3. It's important for us to unite around the things that we have in common and continue to build on those, and still leave space and room to struggle. So the minority in the room has to be defended and protected. While the majority has the right to be listened to, the minority has to be protected, has to be listened to, have to be defended, so they don't feel like they're being run over or pushed over or isolated or abused. In those processes, right, people begin to respect that process and go with what the majority says, thinking that one day they'll have the ability to convince folks that their way is the right way.
Thank you. So, can you share an example of a project that you spearheaded in Newark that positively affected your community that stands out to you?
There's a few of them. I mean, I think the one that stands out the most to everyone is the lead service line replacement. We changed 23,000 lead service lines in the city of Newark without any cost to the residents at all. If they had to pay, they wouldn't be fixed. We're probably the only city in America that's changed that many lead service lines at the speed that we've changed it at. The state of New Jersey said it would take us 10 years. It took us less than 3. We collaborated with a whole bunch of partners to get that done. Partners that, most people would have thought we couldn't collaborate with. Kamala Harris came to Newark and congratulated us on this. I was called to the United States Senate subcommittee to testify as to how we did this and other cities could not. I failed woefully. I used all my SAT words and I still couldn't get it across to them. I think they were looking for something that I didn't have to offer. They were looking for a button in the office that I pushed and we magically changed that service line, or a recipe my great-grandmother gave me that helped me figure out how to do this. But ultimately, it was sheer relationship building, commitment, collaboration that helped us get over the edge and make this thing a reality. And telling them that, I think we probably would have oversimplified what they were looking for.
Thank you. It's a big task with.
Okay.
So, what do you find to be the most challenging aspect of those meetings?
I think that the challenging thing is always people, right? The personnel and people are the most challenging thing. Finding the right personnel to assist you in moving your things forward is always probably the most challenging at any organizational level, any institution, whether public or private. Finding people that are both loyal and committed. There's some people that are loyal that are not committed. There's some people that are committed but not loyal, right? And finding those people, right? And finding people that have something that a lot of folks don't have, which is courage. So besides being committed and loyal, you also have to have courage. As Maya Angelou said, courage is the value that allows you to practice all the other values, right? Because if you believe in equity but don't have the courage to practice it, then it doesn't make any sense. If you believe in compassion, but you don't have the courage to be compassionate in difficult spaces, then it doesn't make sense for you to have that value. You don't really have it. A lot of people think that ideas are good ones that we should push forward on, but because a lot of people don't agree with them, they don't have the courage to push those ideas in public. And so you need people that are willing to build a plane and fly it, right, at the same time, right? To come up with a concept of the plane like the Wright brothers, but also have the courage to be the pilot at the same time.
Thank you. So, what mistakes have you made as a leader, And what lessons would you share for avoiding these mistakes that you made?
All right, we got to turn the tapes off. Well, I've made a lot of mistakes, man, you know. I think every day you make mistakes. Obviously, I think, you know, that the pathway to victory is through failure, right? And it's through errors that you make. I've made errors in picking people to run specific offices. I've made decisions too hastily sometimes that I needed to be more thoughtful about, right? And most of all, I think the biggest mistake that leaders make is they take too long to pivot, right? That there are things that you see that you know are going wrong. You can see it going wrong. You can feel it going wrong. And pivoting takes too long. So the longer you take to change the thing that you know is incorrect, right, the more damage it's going to do, it more difficult it'll be to transform that situation. So pivoting, whether it be around issues around criminal justice, around crime in the city, around business development, around inclusionary zoning, there are a lot of things that we've done that were good ideas that we needed to change, that we took too long to pivot on. A lot of people we put on projects, and I say we, but ultimately it's I, because no matter what anybody else does, is mine. And I think leaders have to take responsibility, you know, for what's happening. I don't ever, and the great thing about the directors, and they like, you know, in my space, working in our space, because when they make a mistake, it's my mistake. Like publicly. Privately, we got to, you know, we gonna mix it up. But publicly, it's my error, right? And I don't ever throw people under the bus. Ultimately, you did it on my watch, so it's mine. I have to own it. And you know, so sometimes we take a little longer to do the things that we need to do, which causes greater damage, and that we should fix early. So a lot of mistakes without naming people and identify situations and individuals. Along those lines, absolutely. Yep.
Thank you, and I agree with you. Accountability is really important as a leader. So, in a diverse work environment where you have a city with multi-cultures and political perspectives, how do you determine which tasks are most important and which you take a priority?
Data. Data is important, man. Data speaks for people who can't speak for themselves. Community meetings are filled with people who got the time to come there, right? Most often they're people that are working 2 and 3 jobs, that are doing things, that got to take care of their kids, they have to do this, they do not have the time to come to community meetings. But their issues are just as important. In fact, those people's issues are probably more important than the folks who have the time to come to those meetings most often. It's important to run things based on data. If you don't have any data, then you're operating in the dark, right? I believe that completely and totally. For example, if there's a shooting in an area of the city, the people that, especially in an area where people have not been used to that, those people are going to flood the meeting and say, So most people would change the trajectory or the organization or the deployment of services just to that community because they had one shooting in 365 days of the year, as opposed to a neighborhood where, for example, 80% of the city of Newark experiences no violent crime, almost no violent crime at all. Most people wouldn't know that, 80%, which sounds good, but 20% of the city deals with almost 100% of the issues that you have. So if I have forces and deployment over there, I'm doing that because the data tells me to do that, right? As opposed to just doing that because somebody is yelling and screaming. You have to, you don't ignore them. You have to navigate that and take care of those issues, but you have to stick to what the data is telling you to do, right? And that's an example, but that's on all areas, right? Even with the lead service lines, people were saying, oh, I want you to come over here and do something over here in this community. What about us? But we're looking at the information. You don't have a problem. We'll come down in and we got to placate you and allow you to do this and give you filters and do all of this. But ultimately, our time has to be spent in a part of the city where the problems are the most prevalent. That's just the reality. You have to have data. Anybody that doesn't have data is never going to do a good job.
Thank you.
So I know Stephanie touched on some of your accomplishments earlier, but what actions have you taken to improve Newark that you're most proud of, and what results have those efforts produced?
Well, we've reduced violent crime in the city to a 63-year low, and we'll end this year with it being even lower. By God's grace, we're not on something. By God's grace, you know, it hasn't been this low since John F. Kennedy was the president of the United States. Saving people's lives are important, right? Important enough that Barack Obama called us to Chicago and gave us an award out of 200 cities about saving people's lives through violence, reduction in community violence intervention. Our Office of Violence Prevention in Newark spurred the Office of Violence Prevention in the state of New Jersey. The Office of Violence Prevention in the folks that organized the Office of Violence Prevention in the country under Biden are the same people that worked with us to create the Office of Violence Prevention in the city of Newark and first. So I'm super proud of that. I already mentioned the lead service lines. I'm proud that we've been able to, out of almost any city in America, take Section 8 vouchers, people who've lived in the projects for most of their lives generationally, and take that same voucher and apply it to a mortgage and turn those people into homeowners to put wealth in their family and make them homeowners after generations of public housing, right? I'm proud of that. I'm proud of our expansion of Wi-Fi, that almost 700 families in the city of Newark now have access to low-cost, high-speed internet because we expanded Wi-Fi in the city of Newark. Our guaranteed education program, which put dozens of kids in college for free for 4 years at St. Elizabeth, at Rutgers Newark, at Caldwell, right? People who had a 2.5 GPA or lower, who were victims of violence, or their family has been victims of violence, to change the trajectory of their lives, the course of their life, is major to me, right? So there's a few things that I could point to. Those are probably the things that I'm most proud of. Inclusionary zoning in Newark that forces developers to put affordable housing in all their development. We make developers put 20% affordability in their projects. The state of New Jersey now makes developers put 20% affordability in all projects they get state aid from right now, right? And we didn't do that because we were trying to be famous or important or make the state do it. Our work is done out of necessity, right? Necessity is the mother of invention. We have to do it. And if it turns out to be good, people borrow it, right? And I'm okay with that.
Thank you.
And as you campaign for governor, what are your key goals for the state?
To build an economy that's inclusive for real, like that's inclusive and inclusionary, that everybody has an opportunity to be a part of, that there's an on-ramp for every community, every family in the state to be a part of the growing economy here. The fact that to understand that equity and growth is the same thing now, that we've grown to a point in this state and in this country, that the economy is going to be stagnant. It'll never grow as long as we hold on to old ideas and old concepts that exclude people from participating in the economy equitably. Part of that is attacking affordable housing that needs to be attacked in a real way, not just a philosophical way, but a practical way. How do we build affordable housing? How do we lower the cost of health care, of child care? I mean, child care in New Jersey is more expensive than people's rents. Like, how to take care of regular working class New Jersey families, which are the majority of people. You got folks down there making decisions about families they don't know, who they don't see, right? For folks who make $500,000 or more, which is okay, but that's not the majority of New Jersey. Half of people in New Jersey make $90,000 or less, right? And so the reality is the policies in the state should represent the majority of the people beyond zip code, right? That's important. And I think that in Newark, we were forced to do this. And it gives us a unique opportunity, because we're closer to the problems, to be closer to figure out what these solutions are. Look, if you went on a plane tomorrow and the pilot came up to you when you got on the plane and said, hey, this is my first flight, right? You'd be scared to death because you know turbulence is coming, right? And you're figuring in your head, when the turbulence start coming, oh, we're going to die, because he told you this is his first flight. You would rather be on a plane with somebody who's been through turbulence multiple times, because when it comes, you know you're going to be okay, right?
So I want to know if you could tell us more about your housing remanagement plan. It takes a statewide approach to fixing the housing crisis. So I want to know how you would get different towns and regions to work together, especially places that might not agree with those streams.
I think we always start off wrong, right? So we start off with the legislature, which is, by process, you have to have a law to be able to do that. The problem is we had these same laws. We're repeating the laws over and over and over again because nobody can execute them, right? So this is a problem that has existed. This is about 40 years or so in the making. And because we have not solved it, it's grown worse and out of control. So now it is incredibly unaffordable to live in the state of New Jersey. God forbid you guys get out of college and want to move into the community that you was born and raised in. You can't afford a house there. The rents are becoming enormous and astronomical. And so ultimately, what the legislator or what the administrators should have done is gathered folks in these communities, the mayors, local housing advocates, folks, and figure out how to solve a problem that's impending, that has doom written all over it, right? So because as soon as everybody starts moving to PA and Delaware, the jobs are going to follow them there. Industry is going to follow them there. We're busy trying to keep millionaires in the state and not regular working people by building housing so they can stay here. Not just affordable housing, but workforce housing. It's so bad in New Jersey now that affordability applies to almost everyone, right? Not just the people we have in our mind, right? So you begin to bring those people together, you get the building trades together, and you also we have to figure out how to lower what it costs to build affordability in the state of New Jersey, right? But the cost of building is high. How do we figure out how to lower those costs and tell folks you can make up on what you give up in the immediate for the long term? So if we're building 20,000 units of housing as opposed to 3,000 units a year, which is what the state does now, right? If we double that number, triple that number, then obviously you get to make up for the money you lose on the compromise of reducing the cost on the upfront, right? You also begin to identify areas of transit. So you say we want to build here first. Some cities don't have transit or not next to transit. We go to the areas where transit is at first and give other people a reprieve for a little while until this thing is done, to begin to figure out what model that they want to bring to their city and talk about what works for them. Because affordability is not just tall buildings. Sometimes there's starter homes that we need to be building. People think of affordability, they think of renting. They should also be thinking of home ownership, right? What does a starter home look like? How do we figure that out? And how do we build that in some suburban communities so what we're building matches what's there already? And how do we change the zoning ordinance so we can accept 2 and 3 family homes or ADUs, assisted dwelling units, in areas where we can actually make those things a reality? And in our effort to do that, we're going to find out that we need to invest in transit, right? Because we need to build more transit, expand transit, because you can't build affordable housing in areas where there's no access to jobs and opportunity. And if you don't have a way to get there, and I know that because 50% of the people in the city don't own a car in Newark, right? So we have to think about transit in a way that you connect people to jobs, connect people to opportunity at the same time. Then you take these housing credits that we have that's completely focused on luxury development and refocus them on affordability and workforce housing, right? To create a market for that. Create a first loss fund where we either use pension funds or tax credits, put them up first, let the philanthropic community add money, let the private sector add money, create a multi-million-dollar fund, $1 billion fund if you can, and center it around affordable housing development throughout the state of New Jersey. You create an enormous amount of jobs, a groundswell in the economy, and the investment that will happen immediately by doing this, and begin to solve the problems that we have. There are 200,000 or more affordable units that are missing from the state of New Jersey right now. There are 4,000 people with vouchers in their hand today. That means they have the money that don't have a place to go. There are 100,000 residents in the state of New Jersey who could go into a house because they got the credit score, they got a good job, but the mortgage is just too high, right? So that group of people has created a market for luxury housing in Newark, in Jersey City, in Hoboken, in East Orange, because those people who could pay $2,500 to live in an apartment should probably be in a home somewhere, right? But we're not building the homes for them, so they're pushing people out of the market. And if we change that, pivoted, and created a market for affordability, I think we could get it done, turn a crisis into an opportunity for us in the state.
And I also want to know, how would you say this policy reflects your values that you believe are the most important to society?
Well, I think that the way we approach this is about democracy, about making sure that what we're doing is inclusive, the process is inclusive, who we're targeting is targeting as many people as we possibly can, up and down the spectrum of the area median income, focusing on those who need it the most, right? These are the things that we need to do. We have this weird idea in America. We forget about America's history, its past, right? We have this weird idea that helping people is not what produced this economy. There are folks who came here with nothing And there are people who made something out of nothing, right? Who came off of slave plantations, who made something out of nothing. And there are people who came on ships from all over the world who used their hands and very little of nothing and made an opportunity for themselves and their family and were given a leg up and were given a pathway into the middle class, which helped create an economy that hundreds of thousands, millions of people are benefiting from today, right? Are benefiting from our investment, are benefiting from the New Deal, who are benefiting from a progressive economy, who are benefiting from us including more people into the economy. And the more people we included in the economy, the stronger the economy became. The more we excluded people or kept people out of it, the more conflict and the weaker our economy was, right? And there are people who benefit, obviously, from an economy that's not inclusive for creating the kind of disparities and differences that we have. So right now you have 12 billionaires in the country who have more money than the entire bottom half of the country put together. 12 people. So they benefit from this kind of divisiveness and differentiation or all this stuff that they pile on us, as opposed to us understanding that we have to have an economy that's inclusive, that grows, right? I tell people when I go speak that the sure way to reduce your taxes is to get more people to pay them, right? That's just mathematics, right? If I slice a pie in 4 pieces, you're going to get a bigger slice. If it's 15 pieces, your slice gets a little smaller. Build an economy that people can pay taxes in, right? That can own their own homes in, that can participate in fully and equally, despite what their humble beginnings were. Because we're in a country full of humble beginnings.
Thank you. And our last question is regarding your father, Amiri Baraka. He's a renowned activist and poet and left a significant legacy on social justice. So how does this work and activism influence your own approach to leadership and policies you pursue as Larry?
Well, people always think my father had more of and he did, a political impact on me. My mother had more of a political impact on me than my dad, in a sense that, she was always talking and getting us to understand the larger concepts. My mother would say to me, your father's a philosopher, he's an educator, he's a thinker, but when he goes to the supermarket, nobody asks him for a job, right? And he says, when you go there, people ask you for stuff. So you need to do stuff for people, right? It's one thing to talk about things, it's another thing to make things happen. One thing that my father gave me that I cherish, that's gotten me through everything, is his ability to research, to study, to read. There were books all over my house, in the bathroom, in the kitchen, in the living room. He would have parties. People would get up and give speeches in the middle of the party. They would read poetry. They'd give diatribes, talks, right? That made me have love for literature, love for words, love for art, right? Love for thinking, right? For challenging ideas. And watching him go through that and stick to his guns, right? And argue and fight with even his friends and other folks around ideas, right? And so my love of ideas and love of art and my love of research and study comes from my dad.
You guys skipped number 12.
You scared?
I like that question, so.
All right. As you campaign for governor, tell us something that we don't want to hear.
If I what?
Something that we don't want to hear.
Well, I don't know what it is that you don't want to hear, but ultimately, I think there are a lot of people who have been organized and grown up on misconceptions and things that are just not real or true, right? And so we govern our lives in the state of New Jersey like everything is okay, and it isn't, right? New Jersey always compares itself to other states, which keeps it looking good because we compare ourselves to Mississippi and Georgia. So we have a pretty good equitable record as relates to that. But if we look at ourselves, right, we're the 6th most segregated state in the nation, right? 6th most segregated. The life expectancy between Newark and Livingston, 8 miles away, is 14 years, right? African-American women are 7 times more likely to die giving birth to a baby in New Jersey than any other place. One of the largest in the country. We have schools that are right next to each other in cities where some of the schools are on the top USA Today list of the best schools in the country, next to schools where 50% of the third graders can't read on grade level. There is a wealth gap in this state that is enormous, would take us 200 years to get rid of, right, in the state of New Jersey. In Essex County, where I live, right, there are 20,000 more African-American families in Essex County than there are white families, right? But white families in Essex County own more homes than black and brown families in the county put together, and black and brown families represent 70% of the population in Essex County. Right? Those kind of dichotomies are deep and dangerous, right? And have to be addressed. We run around like these things don't exist, but they do. You know your schools are segregated, right? We know this. We know our communities are segregated. We live with it. We okay with it in some instances, right? But it's hurting our economy. The cost of living is increasing because of it. You know, I spoke to some parents in one suburban city who says they believe that they pay so much in taxes for schools because their money are going to school districts like Newark, and they're getting less money in their school district. And I said to them, the reality is the same number of kids that went to your school in 1986 are the same number of kids that go to that school in 2024. That's the problem. Your population is not growing. The cost of living is growing. Your costs are increasing, but not your population. So you're getting less money to cover the same amount of kids on a dollar that doesn't go as far as it used to. You want to make sure your schools get money that you don't have to pay for? Allow more kids to enter them. Figure out how to grow the school system, how to partner with districts. Do you know that there are more cities in New Jersey than there are in California, a state that's 8 times the size of New Jersey? More cities here in New Jersey because we have segregated ourselves into municipalities with 500 people, with school systems with 1 school in it. That's what we've done, right? That's the reality. And then we complain that it costs too much. Yeah, if you got all of these cities in a densely populated space, California has less cities than you. At some point, we got to figure this out. That's just the reality of. I mean, this is not my philosophical point of view. This is data. I'm telling you what I feel about. That's just what the data says. I'm not making this up. That's what it is. If you have more superintendents than you have mayors in your state, there's a problem. If you have more superintendents of schools than you have mayors, superintendents that make $300,000 that get paid twice as much as mayors. We don't make $300,000. I wish we did. We don't. We don't make $300,000. The community would go crazy if we made $300,000, right? But superintendents make $200,000 to $300,000. You have more superintendents of schools than you have mayors of cities in New Jersey. These things, this luxury of privilege that we've been living with all of this time, at some point is going to burst, and we have to figure out how we put the pieces back together. Right? That's just the reality. And guess whose job is going to be? Yours. Yours. More importantly, not mine. I'm running for governor today. You know, and that only lasts 4 to 8 years maybe. By that time, it's your turn. And if we don't fix the problems, guess how worse they're going to be for you. And then you have to figure it out, how to deal with these issues that I'm talking about up here, right, in our state. That's just real.
I got a question to build up. So it's their future, right? They're next. They're going to figure out whatever is next. How would you encourage them to get involved in fill in the blank? Politics, government, public service of some sort. What are the avenues that you see that they ought to try and take advantage of if they want to get involved in this life?
First, I would say you should be politically active in school, right? You should be engaged in the organizations and the student government and the things that are going on around here. And if none of this stuff is important enough to you or you feel like it attracts you, then you need to start your own stuff here. Build your own organization, meet with people, figure out how you want to do it here. I mean, college is a proving ground, a breeding ground for everything. Whatever I did doing out here, I started it in college, right? You have to begin today. and begin to participate in people's campaigns in neighborhoods where you live, right? Figure out what the issues are, how they affect you, make sure your voice is heard in those discussions, and be a part of what's happening in your cities, right? In one way or another. Have conversations with your family. I was at Rutgers, and a student came up to me when it was over. She said, look, I want affordable housing. I believe that. I think that, but my parents don't agree with that. We have interesting discussions at dinner table at my household. I said, that's great. Keep having them, right? Keep having them. Have those discussions with your family. It'll sharpen your theory. It'll sharpen what you believe, right? It'll make you think about things in another way, right? And it'll make them think about things in another way. You have to engage, right? You can't wait. There is no right time. People always say, when you get in the real world, you in the real world now. The world is happening now. I would I'm gonna wait till I get out of college and get this and get that. The real world is today. Any change that took place in this country, students were at the forefront of it.
All right, let's open it up for questions. I got a bunch, but I want that you guys all go. So, what do you got?
Go hard.
Don't be scared. Go hard.
Don't be scared. Go hard.
Go hard.
Whatever you want. Something you're interested in.
You mentioned how there are schools in in general in New Jersey that are next to each other and not receiving the same things. I'll put two out there: Science Park, USA Today, or Technology. Whereas we have Central or some of these other schools that aren't exactly receiving the same amount of funding and the same resources. And then we see Roger Leone, and not just him, but whoever's responsible for all of these things, opening up even more schools like the School of Study and Design or Global Studies.
Right.
And it's amazing that we have the opportunities to have such vocation-specific training in our secondary education. However, how do you think the opening of so many schools, even today and last year or the year before, impacts the lack of resources that's already going on?
That is a very good question, and deals with the kind of back and forth we have with the school district, ourselves, and other folks, the charter community, because you have to add them into that as well, because you have a charter community that is there, and a county community that we have to figure out how to share these resources and concentrate them. And I think that's really my job, right, more than anything, to bring these people together collectively, because left to their own devices, they'd be killing each other. So at the end of the day, how to corral these folks to begin to figure out how to collectively use best practices, right? That if Science High is working, whatever's working at Science High should be shared with everybody else. If, one of the charter schools that is working, we should be figuring out how to share those practices with everybody else. And opening schools, new schools, without a real kind of economic strategy is problematic for the sharing of resources. That is true, right? And so we have to figure out tactically and strategically where do we want to direct our dollars and how are we direct them in a way that we get the biggest bang for our buck. And the schools in Newark are becoming more segregated, right? And that's interesting because the state right now is looking at the schools around the state of New Jersey and how segregated they are, right? That, more than half of African American children go to schools that are at least 70% African American, right? And so those schools are segregated by race and class, like economically segregated, which means they're getting fewer resources as well. So we have to figure out, and the whole thing I said in the beginning about collaboration, those are one of the things we have not been able to collaborate on, effectively. People are holding things close to their vest, and most of the fight is about money, about resources. And I think at the base of it is the way the state has organized the school funding formula that needs to change. And I also think it's the way the charter school funding formula is also organized, that also has to change as well. And we have to figure out ways to share the most difficult to teach students, right? Kids that are special needs, English language learners. I was talking to a Dominican family who is not from Newark, who didn't even have English language learning in their city, who snuck their kid to another municipality to go through have English language. I don't want to tell on them where they went or to school, English language learning. But I told her, you know, you can go to jail in New Jersey for doing that, like for moving your kid from one district to the next without living there, which is problematic, it's archaic, it's barbaric. That should go away. But ultimately, we have to figure out how to make sure everybody has their fair share of students that are more difficult, or I should say, need more resources in order to get them down the same trajectory. And if kids leave charter schools, the money should return to the school district that they go back to. I believe that. You shouldn't keep the money, right? That's really what the fight is about, those resources. So do I agree with us opening up all of these schools? Not particularly, right? You know, that's my, I'm not in charge of schools, but that's my opinion, right? I don't agree. Some of the schools are successful, but to keep doing that, I don't know if that's going to have a real impact.
I have another question. So, what are some of the measures that you took to reduce crime in Newark? Like, can you elaborate more on like some of this policy?
Absolutely. The Office of Violence Prevention, Community Violence Intervention folks that we have a re-engagement center, Office of Violence Prevention and Trauma Recovery, Brick City Peace Collective. So what we've done is take money, some from the police department, some from the federal government, and begin to fund community-based organizations to help us reduce violence and crime, conflict resolution, re-engagement. They participate completely and totally with ComStat. So ComStat is where the police officers meet and talk about the data in the city, where robberies are happening, where violence is happening, where homicides are happening. CBI organizations are there talking about how to intercept or interrupt. So maybe you got a kid that is 14, 15 years old, who's been arrested 5 or 6 times. CBI organizations, they call it soft or warm handoff. We go get that kid and begin to try to change their trajectory. They do conflict resolution, direct high-risk intervention in communities where there's actually real problems happening with one another, and intercede in those communities and try to reduce that level, right? Part of it is provide opportunity and jobs for some of the folks in that, right? Or what we have, Newark Street Academy, taking kids that have been out of school and unemployed and getting them back into school or back into educational environments, giving them a stipend to do that, right? So there's a myriad of different ways that we've been engaged. One of the most difficult areas that we've encountered in doing this is domestic violence, right? We are still working tirelessly around trying to figure out how to, 46% of the aggravated assaults in Newark are domestic violence. It's personal. It's different to solve conflicts of kids on the internet talking about each other's blocks that results into violence. We get intercede in that, stop it. You can do this, you can do that. Domestic violence is a whole nother beast, right? These are things that are happening in people's households that we don't have any idea about that turns into aggravated assault or homicide. We have to do a better job at getting people out of these situations, creating safe houses for folks, transitional opportunities, for people. So that's one of the challenges that we still have in our city right now, right? But community violence intervention is the way to go. It's the new thing that's happening nationally.
One over, Jessica.
Hello, my name is Jessica Quang. I'm a senior, and my question is, as the mayor of one of New Jersey's largest cities, how do you keep in connection with your constituencies, and how do you plan on expanding those connections and partiality on a state level as a prospective governor?
That's great. The largest city in the state, by the way. So the best way to do that, so we have a couple of methods. We have something called the People's Assembly that organizes block associations and tenant associations, that keeps in touch with people, that has meetings, that makes sure I'm at meetings when I need to be, make sure that the city government officials are there. So we encourage people to join these organizations. We just did a free ring give out of cameras at people's households because folks were getting a lot of package robberies on their porch and stuff like that. So we only gave it to people that were part of block associations or tenant associations. So trying to pile people into those meetings. That's just one method. I think the real methodology is really being in touch with community-based organizations that are in those neighborhoods and those communities that helped us tremendously through COVID. Any crisis that we've had in the city of Newark, community CBOs, nonprofit organizations have created a relationship with us that's unmatched, right? And they're deep in communities that may have language barriers, they may have cultural barriers, they may have other places you can't get in that they can, because they're in those communities helping people get driver's license, helping people navigate school registration, helping people get health care, all of these things. So they have real contact with folks. So our relationship with them helps people, one, come out of the shadows, participate in getting services from our health department, participate in the after-school recreation, after-school programming, helping them get jobs and language services. So our ability to work with those organizations helps our city tremendously in dealing with those communities. If there's something that goes out that's not in the languages that need to be in, CBOs get on it ASAP. So we have what we call these commissions. We have the Caribbean Commission, the Hispanic Commission, the Women's Commission. We have these commissions as well as CBO organizations that help us fill in the gaps. And when we make errors and mistakes, that they ensure us that this is an error. They make it clear this is an error. Let's get this fixed. Or, we need this in Creole, or we need this in this language or that language. And so we do that. And I think statewide, our relationship to CBOs is paramount, is important, right? Even more so than your relationship to mayors, right, and city officials that you have to have, particularly if you have not a crisis like COVID or something like that. You have to have a deep relationship with community-based organizations up and down the state of New Jersey. You just must have that. And I think it's important to have dedicated staff, like we do in the city through the People's Assembly, that's responsibility is to communicate with CBOs. Yep.
So here's a related one. So your outreach to CBOs, your creation of, all of those types of things are community-based, community-broadened connections, right? I think it's objectively true that you as mayor have accomplished more than the last 3 mayors combined. But the last one got a TV show, and you didn't. So what's up with that? Like, why is it that there is that if you ask people, who they know about the mayor of Newark, you're the one who gets stuff done. Other people are the ones who get in the news. How'd that happen?
Well, I think it's me personally. No, I think part of it is like I need to improve my relationship with the media and the press. And people following me around and taping me. I really don't like that because I don't like the feeling of being staged or like something that's phony. But I have to, and I haven't really come completely into the concept, the idea that this job that I have is a very public one, right? And that people are going to be following it with their video cameras and their cameras and so forth and so on. And, I'm an introvert, right? That's who I am. I mean, it's funny. My mother always make jokes about that. Like, how did you get this job? Like, you're the guy when the party is going on that's sitting in the corner, right? So at the end of the day, my personality makes it difficult, like in the public space like that, makes it difficult for the press to latch on. But also, like, I think folks deliberately and intentionally advertise themselves. Like, they market themselves and advertise themselves because they're looking for something greater or bigger to come, right? And look, I didn't know I was going to be doing this long, right? So if you would have told me at 17 years old on Avon Avenue that I would be like in Tom's River telling people I'm going to be the governor of the state of New Jersey, I would have thought you was out of your whole mind, right? If I'm on Avon and 14th Street in front of the steak and take, somebody say, hey, you're going to be in Montvale, New Jersey, like in the backyard talking to these folks about you being a governor. I would have been shocked out of my mind, but it's happening. So I'm just going with it.
Cool. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Here we go.
Hi, my name's Tiffany, and also I'm from California,
Okay.
Orange County.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But like my question is, well, first of all, thank you for like addressing like everything that's been going on in New Jersey, because as someone from a different state, I actually noticed it. I noticed like segregation and lack of diversity, different areas. It was one of my like first culture shocks. But being that, my question would be like, how would you convince these like cities and towns successfully collaborate in the push for more diversity and more job expansion?
Well, I think really it's a matter of a carrot and a stick that we have to incentivize. We have to incentivize schools to be more diverse, right? They should get a diversity bonus, schools that, not the district, the school, right? To create diversity in their school district and let the school system figure out how that school did it and begin to duplicate that model. We have to, kind of incentivize municipalities to work with one another, to combine school districts, to begin bringing their fire departments and police departments and other departments together. We have to incentivize that, either through tax breaks or opportunity and for municipalities to, lower their burden, but at the same time create diversity in their communities. We have to encourage people to build more housing and let them see that it'll lower the cost that they have to pay and building more housing. And that diversity looks like a whole lot of different things, right? Affordable housing is also seniors, it's also young couples, it's also fresh college students. That's what affordability looks like. And show people that, have real honest discussions about what that is. But I'm hopeful about these things because just like the kid said at Rutgers, that the young people do not feel the same way as their grandparents. They just don't have the same hang-ups and the same history and the same issues. When we were bringing Amazon, and I'm not like a pom-pom wielding fan of Amazon, but when they said 50,000 jobs, it's hard to tell Newark because you don't go for this, right? So we were number 3 in all of the country of where Amazon wanted to go. Newark, little old Newark, New Jersey was on that list of the top 3 cities that Amazon was going to go to. The building's second headquarters was Newark. And there was a bunch of reasons why. One is our access to college and universities. The questions they asked us had nothing to do with the things that people assumed. Like they didn't ask us about crime, violence, or any of those things that people might assume that they asked about the number of kids that graduate from the universities, what the talent pool looked like, how many engineers are graduating from this area. They asked about the transportation infrastructure, how people are getting back and forth to work, how fast are my goods going to get from the main ocean to the port of Newark, right? Where's the space to build industry? Where am I going to get my workforce, right? And when people get off work, where they going to go eat? Yeah, because you guys, students, young people who graduate, these people they're looking for in their talent pool, want to go to diverse communities to eat. They want to hang out at the local bar, go to the Greek restaurant, go some Afro beats, go to this place, eat this kind of food, hang out here, go get an empanada, go get that. They want to make sure that all of that stuff is readily available for people who are coming out and want to work here, that they're not bored out of their mind, that they don't want to go work from home and don't come into a city because it's not vibrant. They want to know that the city is bustling and that everything around it is bustling as well. That's because that's what the workforce wants. And that demand is going to change the outcome of how all of these cities are organizing themselves, which is why all these industrial parks in New Jersey are closed, because nobody wants to work in places where they can't go get a hamburger, right? They're there all day looking at grass and 4 walls. They want to go do something at lunch, and more importantly, after work, right? So we have to change the model, and I think young people are going to force the model to be changed. Like, you don't know nothing about Tower Records. You don't know nothing about CDs or going to Tower Records, putting on a headphone, listening to music there at Tower Records and buying an album. You don't know nothing about that, because young people didn't want to go to Tower Records anymore. They wanted to stream stuff off of the computer. So the Tower Records I used to love in Union Square that I used to go to in Lincoln Center, put the headphones on and spend hours listening to music, is gone because a bunch of kids wanted to download music on their iPod at the time. So it doesn't exist anymore. That's the same thing that's going to happen to this economy and the way we've organized the economy. You guys are not going to participate in an economy that's certainly not inclusive.
All right, I think we're reaching the end of our hour, but thank you very much. Let's do a round of applause.